They're going to have long, illustrious careers, perhaps in the same fashion. So you're not going to see guys like a Clay Matthews who played, middle linebacker for and I'm not talking about Clay Matthews Jr. who's playing now. I'm talking about his daddy who played for like 18, 19 years at middle linebacker. That's like absurd. He might even play 20 years. Him and his brother Bruce, who played for like 19 to 20 years at every position on the offensive line. You're not going to see those dudes, I think, in the generations going forward. Even a guy like a Ray Lewis, who I think played 14, 15 years. I think that's going to be the longer end of the spectrum. I think a long NFL career is going to start to feel like it's in that 9, 10 year, 8 to 10 year kind of window, kind of like your man Calvin Johnson. I know you were always a big fan of his. Well, I do think that a tough part of Calvin Johnson's thing is a little bit different. I mean, I don't know enough about his whole injury background. I heard he got injured. I heard he's got some bad ankles, some different stuff. But I do think if you were on a winning team, or at least if you thought there was some light at the end of the tunnel, you might figure out a way that, hey, maybe I can play another year or two if I got a shot at winning. But when you're at a team like Detroit that just absolutely just sucks forever, it's just on permy suck. It just never gets better. It has its ebbs and flows, and it kind of, it improves a little bit, but you don't see yourself winning because you've never known anybody to win like ever in Detroit. So you're just saying to yourself, you know what? This is never going to happen for me. It never happened in the generations before. There's something about it that's not going to happen. I'll tell you what I often think about it, because it's sad to see a guy like Calvin leave. It was sad to see Barry Sanders leave. To this day, I was always hoping, like, maybe Barry's coming back this year. Like, you still want to see him jitterbug a little bit, but I almost wish that, like, veteran players, same way that in some leagues they have what they call like a veterans exception, that they can still step in and make, X amount of salary. I wish there was some sort of veterans exception, that they had some sort of clause where if they were just in like a perennial kind of sub 500 team, if they just didn't see a way out, that even if they took a lesser amount of money, that they had the option to force a trade to another team. Because if they weren't really tired of the game, I think we lose as NFL fans. At least I personally feel like I lose not seeing Calvin Johnson on the field anymore. And even if I could see him in another uniform, and he were making a little bit less money but had a chance at winning, I would love to see what that Calvin Johnson looks like, as opposed to this one who's on the perennial loser, who's just never going to win. Yeah, yeah, it is. Now, a question for you. Staying in the NFL for a second, what are your impressions over the quarterback dilemma as you see it? I mean, it's obvious everybody needs a quarterback. You saw the distress that people under, but when you see a Brock Osweiler getting broke off $72 million for the Brockster, going going to Texas, or you see people kind of bidding and positioning at some level for a Kaepernick and RG3, or even a Fitzpatrick with the Jets. What are your thoughts about that in terms of where the pay scale has gone for mediocre talent at best? Yeah. Yeah. Which is just completely crazy. Well, I see that part of it, but I got to say that, at least relative to Brock, I think I might have given the nod to Brock. I mean, because there's a lot of fools out here who are getting ready to get paid who are all garbage. Who are all garbage. I mean, I don't think Stafford is great. I think Fitzpatrick had a decent year, but he's obviously not great. And Kaepernick and RG3, I mean, I think that's a crapshoot at best. I think if I was Denver, I would have paid Brock. I would have paid him, and I would have been more competitive, and perhaps paid him. I mean, if that's kind of what the going rate is now, as unfortunate as it may be, I think I would have paid him, because you know what I think doesn't feel good, and this is what I think ultimately happens to owners once they get into the season. They realize how critical it is that, right now you can kind of say, well, maybe this, maybe that, maybe I should pay him more, maybe we should go after him. But once you're in the midst of the season and your team is struggling and your entire city is coming down on you, your kids' friends are coming down on them at school, people are coming down on your wife at the country club. Everyone's just like, geez, what are we going to do? When is your husband going to get a quarterback? Can't we just get some quarterback somewhere? At that point, the difference in the couple of $1 million that you may pay more, that seems astronomical when you go from paying 15 to 18, if that's one or two more wins that moves you closer to getting into the Super Bowl, I think at that point, if you're already a billionaire, I don't think that couple of $1 million at that point really is that big a difference to you. And I think that's when guys decide, hey, look, just go ahead and pay him, because this is our one shot. If we're going to do it, let's do it. No doubt. No doubt. Yeah. Yeah. Uh, Hey, hey, Dr. John, I appreciate you calling as always, brother. Appreciate your opinion. This has been C-Suite Sports with Mike G. Go to csuitesports.net and please join us next week. Same time, 5 p.m. Monday. Ride with Mike G. Thank you. C-Suite Sports.